Part 49. My Love Simulation with Them. Author, Chiudeo Udazi. Chapter 483. Because he clearly felt it. The current situation is essentially different from in-person simulation. To put it bluntly, personal simulation is essentially a simulation. It was just a projection of his entire consciousness into the simulated world. Even if the simulated world is very real. But by its very nature it is false. Nang Xiangxi can also clearly recognize this. But this time the situation when the heart of love was activated was completely different. You can feel it when visiting Nangxiang. Everything in front of you is real. Whether it's the breath coming out. It's still the fragrance of the flowers in the courtyard that my nose smells. Or maybe it was the sunshine he could feel, the breeze he could feel. All of this is real. Rather than the false feeling in simulation. It was as if the world in front of him was the world he had always lived in. How can heart of love have such a powerful effect? Thinking of this, Nan Xiangxi shook his head and threw all the distracting thoughts out of his mind. He didn't feel too panicked. After all, things have happened now. Then he should find a way to solve it. And the first thing he needs to do to solve the situation at hand is actually already placed in front of him. That is. Where is this place? Nan Xiangxi raised his eyes and glanced around. Every time you simulate it personally, the simulator will be responsible for transmitting to him the memory of the personal simulation. But this time is different. Nangxiang appeared in this place without any warning. Likewise, there is no means of transferring memory as is usual with emulators. Therefore, before thinking of a solution, you must understand where you are. Just when Nangxiang sighed, he planned to walk around and take a look. A familiar, elegant and lazy voice suddenly came from behind. When are you awake? This title is too familiar. So when Nangxiangxi heard it, he felt a sense of excitement in his heart. Ryo, you came just in time. He turned around without hesitation, grabbed the shoulder of the dark blue-haired woman walking behind him with his hand, and said the truth from the bottom of his heart. It's so nice to have you by my side. That's right. I originally thought that after activating the heart of love, I would come to a completely strange and different world. I didn't expect to meet Miss Yamada directly here. This is really a gratifying good thing. Nan Xiangxi's voice paused and his eyes moved up. He was about to continue talking and explain the current situation to Miss Yamada. Then Nangxiang became speechless. Because the Miss Yamada in front of him is not the Miss Yamada he knows. The short dark blue hair swayed slightly as he grabbed his shoulders. Her long, white, and plump thighs were wrapped in black stockings. The iconic, charming amber eyes are intoxicating, as well as the black tear marks dotting the edges of the eyes. These are undoubtedly the standard configuration of Yamada Ryo. However, apart from these standard configurations owned by MS Yamada, the eyebrows of MS Yamada in front of me are thinner and longer. The neutral and delicate face that originally had the childishness of a high school student has now become more mature. When she spoke, she raised her hands and feet with an indescribable elegance of a lady, lacking the unrestrained and free feeling she had before. If I could describe it in simpler sentences. That is. The Yamada Ryo in front of Nango was like a grown-up and mature version of Yamada Ryo in the original world. Even apart from this, what surprised Nangxiang even more was the little girl held by Miss Yamada's hand. It was a girl with short dark blue hair. Except for the tear mark on the left eyelid, everything else is exactly the same as the Yamada Ryo in front of her. Miss Yamada, you. Nangxiang subconsciously spoke according to his previous habit. The words were just spoken. He was interrupted by Ryo Yamada, who furrowed his beautiful eyebrows. She glanced at her husband who was holding her shoulders strangely, and whispered. What are you talking about? I changed my surname to Nangxiang 4 years ago. Yamada Ryo, no, It should be Nango Ryo now. She tilted her head and looked at Nan Xiang with some confusion. Nang Xiangxi. Ah. Change your surname to Nang Xiang? Wait a minute. Ms. Yamada, what are you talking about? When did I marry you? When did you change your last name? How come I have no impression at all? Everything happened suddenly. Rang Nangxiang was a little surprised. Etc. Could it be that this is the effect of love heart? Nangxiangxi's mind was spinning very fast. After being stunned for a moment, he thought of the heart of love he had activated before. Although the effect is not stated. But from now on, the heart of love is very likely to pull him away from the original world line. Another possible future world line has been drawn. Such a thing is not impossible. Whether it is the random daughter appearance card prop or the her from the future one-time mission that was activated in Nangxiang, they are missions that must be accessed to the future world line to be used and activated. Think of this. Nangxiangxi quickly adjusted his mood and suppressed the unnatural look on his face. He patted his head and rubbed his temples. He looked as if he had just woken up and said, "Sorry, Ryo, I guess it's because I just woke up, I didn't know where this place was for a moment. It seems that you are indeed a little sleepy." Nan Xiangliang shook his head and explained to some extent, he was so confused that we didn't even recognize him, obviously only a lonely person would do such a thing. Our family. Hearing this key word, Nan Xiangxi's heart moved slightly. The conversation has reached this point. He also roughly understood part of the situation. It seems that it was after he activated the heart of love. Heart of love takes effect. His whole body was transported to a world line that was completely unknown to him. This can also be explained. Why did he feel an indescribable sense of familiarity when he looked at the architectural furnishings in front of him? And if you analyze Nangxiang Ryo's words carefully, it is not difficult to find out. In this future world line, I should be married to Ryo Yamada and Kazuri Goto. But is it just two people? Or is it like before, 9 girls all exist in this world and are married to him? Think about this. Nangxiangxi did not hesitate and spoke directly. Well, I've almost woken up, speaking of which, where did Ili go? Why can't I see her? Nangxiang Liang. As for Ili, I went to Nazu's kindergarten to attend the parent-teacher meeting. Nangxiang Liang explained to Nangxiang, and then she frowned and asked a sharp question in a cold voice. Don't you know that little Lonely went to the parent-teacher meeting? She. Why are you asking me again at this time? Nangxiang Nazu is the daughter of Nangxiang and Nangxiang. Today is the day when Nangxiang Ili attends the Nangxiang Nazu parent-teacher meeting. Everyone in the Nangxiang family should know about this. Why is my husband asking questions here knowingly? My love simulation with them. Author, Chiu Dao Yu de Ziwei. Chapter 484. When she looked at Nangxiang in confusion, her expression became increasingly strange. If it is an ordinary person. I felt Nangxiang Ryo's strange eyes and sharp questions. I guess they all felt a bit panicked. But Nangxiangxi had never been an ordinary person. After noticing the strange brilliance in Nangxiang Liang's eyes, he already waved his hand with a no need to make a fuss smile. It's nothing, I just think it's time to come back around this time. It's already afternoon. His voice, breathing, and tone were all controlled very steadily. It would be an understatement to say that lying is as instinctive as breathing. When facing Nangxiang, who was already 2 or 3 ranks higher than him, the doubts in Nangxiang Liang's mind were immediately dispelled. She moved her head up and down expressionlessly. Yes, it's already past 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Even if you are attending a parent-teacher meeting, you should be back. Call. Seeing Nan Xiangliang seemed to have eliminated his doubts, Nan Xiangxi breathed out secretly. Fortunately, I got over it. Otherwise, it would be difficult for him to explain his current situation. But although it can be fooled temporarily, but there was no guarantee that Nang Xiang would be able to fool him forever. After all, Nang Xiangxi still only had a partial understanding of the current situation. For the time being, we cannot act rashly as before. Anyway, before going home in Nang Xiang, what he will do next has actually been decided. That is to first figure out the composition of your current family. He can't even figure out how many wives he has, right? Think so. Nang Xiangxi was about to say hello to Nang Xiangliang and turned around to enter the house. But the next second, his steps were stopped by Nang Xiangliang. Please wait a moment. Well. Nang Xiangxi's footsteps paused. Is there anything else? Liang. Is there anything else? Nang Xiangryo glanced at him a little strangely, and then spoke in his signature cold, emotionless voice, won't you do it? Ah! Nang Xiang opened his mouth when his arm was pulled, his face full of astonishment. No. Wait a minute. Won't you do it? Are you serious about this statement? Miss Liang? Nang Xiang rubbed his temples. To be honest, he is very interested. Very interested indeed. Especially for what Miss Liang said, don't do it. Do, Nang Xiangxi is really interested in it. But now is not the time to do that. The specific situation today is not yet clear, and every minute and every second is precious. No matter what you think, this is not the time to do that kind of thing. Moreover, Nang Xiangxi was a good young man with noble moral character and good style. How could you give in to desire at such a critical time? Thinking of this, Nang Xiangxi coughed dryly and found a more legitimate reason. You want to do this kind of thing in broad daylight, it's a bit inappropriate, right? Ryo. This reason is quite serious, and it also tactfully postpones the doing of this matter to the evening as a matter of course. But after hearing what he said, Nan Xiangliang's expression turned a little confused. She stretched out her palms to tuck her dark blue hair behind her ears, revealing her white neck and earlobes before asking the question. Obviously she just called me here. Ah! As soon as the sentence was spoken, Nang Xiang felt a little overwhelmed on the spot. Good guy. It turns out that Ms. Liang came here because she was called here by her previous self? Nang Xiang time, Nang Xiang time. How could you be so depraved and indulged in desire? Nang Xiangxi condemned in his heart. But the next second, Nan Xiangliang on the other side tilted his head and blinked his amber eyes cutely. I have already put on my favorite black. Black. All right. It's true that he didn't run away. Nang Xiangxi rubbed his eyebrows. By now he was starting to have a headache. Fortunately, there are all kinds of excuses. Apart from the fact that it's not appropriate to do this kind of thing in broad daylight, there are other reasons. It's true that I specifically asked Ryo to come here, but isn't Yuna not asleep yet? Let's wait until she falls asleep. Nang Xiangxi smiled and stretched out his hand, lovingly touched the side of Nang Xiangliang's fair face, and then kissed it gently. There was a slight long sound. Nan Xiangliang's face turned red and he parted his lips that were still entangled just now. I understand. Then just wait until I put Yuna to sleep. I remember that there is still some sleeping pills that my father prescribed for me. Nang Xiangxi. It's time to say it or not. No matter which world line. Ms. Yamada's character, which is so despicable in the world, really hasn't changed. He shook his head speechlessly, but still pinched her cute little nose and told her seriously. You put her to sleep yourself and don't talk nonsense. Chapter 322. The Wives of This World 4100 words. This is really. Watching Nango Ryo's slender figure hugging Nango Yuna away. Nang Xiang breathed a little sigh of relief, but at the same time he felt a sense of surprise in his heart. The reason is simple. That is, this world activated by the heart of love is too real. As a host for a love simulator. In the Nango period, I started with Ichiri Goto, and then went to Ryo Yamada, Chisuk Nishiki, Akane Shinjo, Ryo Futaba, and Satu Matsuzaka. He also has many experiences with simulations. No matter how much Nangxiang simulates it, he actually knew it clearly. What happens in a simulated world is just a simulation after all. No matter how realistic it is, even to the extent that it can predict the future, it is still just a simulation. Girls in the simulated world are fundamentally different from those in the real world. That is the difference between falsehood and truth. In the simulation, they will follow the predetermined route because of the options in Nangxiang. But real life is completely different from the simulated world. A sentence, a word, or even a look may lead to countless futures. It is precisely because there is such a clear distinction. It was only in Nangxiang that I was able to clearly separate reality from simulation. However, this time it's completely different. After sending Nangxiang Ryo away, Nangxiang looked at his palm. On the fair and well-proportioned palms, the palm prints are evenly distributed. Yes. I can feel it in Nangxiang. The world this time is completely different from simulation or in-person simulation. You need to know about past simulations or simulate them yourself. As long as he has a thought, he can break away from the simulated memories or scenes and return to the real world. But this time is different. He thought about returning to the real world several times but was unable to do so. And this is what surprised Nangxiang the most. Fortunately, the worst did not happen. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My love simulation with them. Author, Chiudeo Udazi. Chapter 485. Nangxiang Shi stretched out his fingers towards the empty air in front of him and moved downwards. Accompanied by this familiar gesture, the light blue simulation page slowly began to emerge. Sure enough, at least the connection with the simulator still exists. Looking at the simulator suspended in front of him, Nangxiang breathed a sigh of relief. Although the simulator is both evil and unreliable. But after all, it is the simulator that pulls itself into this world. So if you want to return to the original real world, you should also rely on it. Thinking of this, Nangxiang Shi stretched out his fingers and slid them downwards. He wanted to see how long he could stay in this world. To know. According to the usual routine of the simulator, I should have a so-called time limit in this world. It's like an in-person simulation of the simulator. Spend 1,200 points to redeem 4 simulation opportunities, and you can enter the simulation world for 12 hours. The same example can be seen in Chio Matsuzaka's mission of She from the Future, where she spent her heartbeat points to enter the future simulation routine. Of course, when Nangxiang came to this world, it should have its own unique time limit just like these two situations. He was thinking this while his fingers slipped. The time you can stay is also displayed on the simulation page. Current host, Nangxiang Shi. Length of stay, unlimited. Remaining heartbeat value, 4,500. The fingers paused slightly at this moment. Nangxiang Shi's eyes widened slightly. He ignored the two pieces of information, the current host and the remaining heartbeat value. Instead, he stared at the detention time column for a long time. Unlimited. Nangxiang lowered his fingers. Having owned the simulator for more than half a year, he naturally understood what this line of words meant. That is to say, there is no limit to the time he can exist in this world now. In other words, whenever he wants, he can continue to live in this world. But how can that be possible? Nangxiang frowned in thought. If he stays in this world forever, what about another real world? What about myself and the girls in the real world? What will happen to them? Think about it the other way around. Every time he performs a simulation, time in the real world still flows. In other words, he will also feel thirsty and hungry in the real world. If you never go back, what will happen to my body that remains in the real world? All kinds of questions floated in my mind. All kinds of thoughts are entangled. Nan Xiangxi frowned and stretched out his fingers, wanting to check the conditions for returning to the real world. But the next second, Toki-kun. Ah, I found you. Why are you here alone? A lively voice came from behind. At the same time there were short footsteps. Nang Xiangxi just turned around. A figure ran directly into his arms. The golden hair was also jumping slightly happily at this moment. Hongxia. After seeing clearly the appearance of the person in his arms, Nan Xiangxi couldn't help but make a sound when his movements were suddenly interrupted. A head of golden hair. Eyes so bright red that they looked like passionate flames. The woman in front of her was undoubtedly the mature version of Ajishi Hongxia. The originally boyish and cute golden side ponytail was now put down and replaced with a beautiful and slender blonde single ponytail. Originally she was more inclined to dress up in a cute style, but now she has become extremely mature. The light pink blouse and long skirt perfectly supported her pure and beautiful appearance. Nang Xiang hugged each other subconsciously. And the other party showed no resistance to Nang Xiangxi's overly intimate gesture. Instead, he smiled and brought his head closer, rubbing Nang Xiangxi's chest. That intimate look also made Nang Xiangxi basically confirm one thing. The Yujizi Hongxia in front of me, no, it should be Nang Xiang Hongxia, probably also his wife. Otherwise, you would feel a little shy about his actions. Thinking about this, Nang Xiangxi had no worries. He stroked the other person's head and asked with a smile. What's the matter with coming here suddenly? Hongxia. What do you mean by what's going on here suddenly? Listening to Nang Xiangxi's words, Nang Xiang Hongxia pouted her lips cutely. Looks like Ryo was absolutely right when he said you were confused by your sleep. Have you forgotten? Today is our family gathering day. Ah. Listening to Nang Xiang Hongxia's words, Nang Xiang was stunned. Family gathering day? This is your request. It is said that Sister Liang and Sister Akane are busy with their own affairs, and it is difficult to even meet each other, so they set a special date for family gatherings every month. Nango Hongxia is indeed worthy of being called the Archangel of Shimokitazawa. Seeing that her husband seemed a little confused, she smiled sweetly and explained to him thoughtfully. But she couldn't imagine it. Nang Xiangxi was not confused at all, but simply did not understand the current situation. You know what Nang Xiang Liang said just now? It was Nang Xiang who specifically asked her to come over and said he wanted to do something. But now Nang Xiang Hongxia told him again. Today is an important day for family gatherings. Then think about it the other way around. How could Nang Xiangxi ask Miss Liang to come over and do something on such an important day? In other words, I was deceived by that guy. Nang Xiangxi thought of Nang Xiang Liang's back when he left quickly. Miss Liang probably thought that he had just woken up and was a little confused, so she wanted to take this opportunity to do something he loved to do. But she was too embarrassed to speak, so she poured dirty water on his head, saying that Nang Xiang had specially called her here. This guy. Nang Xiangxi shook his head speechlessly. Can only say. Regardless of whether it is Ms. Yamada who has become his wife in this world. She is still Ms. Yamada in the real world. These two people are still the same person. This character, which has no so-called integrity and shamelessness, is simply printed from the same mold. When I was in Nangxiang, I still had nothing to say. Nangxiang Hongxia on the other side blinked. What's wrong? Shijun? We're almost there. The family gathering over there is already ready. Ah, okay. Nangxiangshi did not refuse Nangxiang Hongxia's invitation and took advantage of the opportunity to hold her hand. Toki-kun. Nangxiang Hongxia's fair face suddenly turned a little rosy. She called out to Nangxiang. But the palm did not loosen. Nangxiangshi glanced at it, feeling very satisfied. Hongxia is indeed still Hongxia. Even after becoming his wife, this lovely personality has not changed much. The two of them just walked forward while holding hands. During this period, Nangxiangshi carefully looked at the mansion where he was. This should be the mansion he built to live with the girls. The entire mansion covers a large area. The gate is also divided into the outer courtyard gate and the mansion gate. There are side yards on the left and right sides. The location Nangxiangshi was in just now was not the small backyard, but the left courtyard. Go along the simple corridor with long eaves. My love simulation with them. Author, Chiu Dao Yu de Ziwei. Chapter 486. Then go around the path paved with bluestone slabs. Nangxiangshi then followed Nangxiang Hongxia's footsteps and came to the other side of the courtyard. While walking in Nangxiang, I looked at them, and while I looked at them, I was surprised. The main residence alone would probably cost a lot of money. Not to mention that there is an auxiliary building that extends to the edge of the main residence, similar to a music practice room and other building facilities. Just thinking about the cost, Nangxiangshi couldn't help but shake his head. I can tell. The career development of myself and the girls in this world should be smooth sailing. Otherwise, there would be no way to repair such an exaggerated, almost continuous mansion that only belongs to the Nangxiang family. It was also when Nangxiang was thinking about it. Nangxiang Hongxia in front suddenly squatted down and half covered her abdomen with her white palms. Well. Her delicate eyebrows were knitted together. There was barely any hesitation. Nangxiang subconsciously reached out to steady her body, which almost fell forward, and pulled her to the side of the long corridor to sit down. Looking at his wife's suddenly pale face, Nangxiangshi felt inexplicably distressed and pitiful. He stretched out his hand, gently wiped the cold sweat dripping down the other person's cheek, and asked, "Are you okay? Hongxia? Do you need to go to the hospital?" When asked this sentence, Nangxiangshi was actually ready to redeem the universal healing medicine. Nangxiang Hongxia shook her head, leaned into Nangxiangshi's arms, and after finding a comfortable position, she whispered the reason. It turned out that she had already found out that she was pregnant with Nangxiang's child in March. Feeling suddenly uncomfortable and nauseous is actually a common thing recently. Shijun, do you think this child will look more like you or me after he is born? The blonde-haired wife whispered in his ear, joking like. I think this child may be more like me. After all, Shijun's character is not so tossing. Her voice paused. But before that, Shijun, you have to stay with me and take care of me. The blonde girl winked playfully and leaned against Nangxiangshi. Nangxiangshi could not answer this question. Because he does not belong to this world, how can he make an irresponsible promise to a girl? He could only stroke her hair sympathetically, and then turned his head to look at the scenery in the courtyard. The thorn bulbs blooming in the courtyard are a bit dazzling. The bamboo joints of the frightened deer struck each other through the action of running water. Calm sunlight spreads down. Hug her when we were in Nangxiang. This feeling is very strange. It's like time has frozen at this moment. An indescribable feeling of happiness surged in my heart. Nangxiang Hongxia's sudden abdominal pain and nausea went away as quickly as it came. However, considering her physical condition, Nangxiangshi just touched her head and sent her to rest. After all, pregnant women are very valuable during pregnancy. Family dinners can be attended at any time, and there is no rush. He finally coaxed Nangxiang Hongxia to lie down. But before he could take a step forward, he was stopped by the other party. By the way, Toki-kun, you'd better go to the side yard on the other side and take a look. Sister Sensu and Sister Takina are still waiting there. Nangxiang Hongxia, who was resting in bed, suddenly spoke like this. And as soon as the sentence was spoken, it naturally attracted Nangxiang Shi's attention. He glanced at Nangxiang Hongxia and originally wanted to stay and take care of her. But in the end, she couldn't stand Nangxiang Hongxia's repeated pleas. Nangxiang Shi nodded in agreement, I understand. After repeatedly telling him to call him if anything happened, Nangxiang Shi went out and walked towards the side yard. Regarding Nishiki Kishu and Inu Takina who have not yet met, Nangxiang Shi was actually a little curious. However, he has just stood still. There was a happy sound from the other side. Toki-kun. Here, here. Waving his palms excitedly. The passionate woman with blonde hair and the quiet woman with black hair put down the skewers in their hands and stood up. In this world, Nishiki Chisuke and Inu Takina have naturally matured. Judging from the little girls with blonde hair and black hair staying next to them, the identities of the two of them are actually very clear. Nishiki Chisuke and Inu Takina have also become Nango Toki's wives in this world. The two girls, who were first-time wives, had completely lost their childishness at this moment. The golden white-haired Nishiki Chisuke has grown her hair long. As for Inu Takina, she braided her black hair into a long braid, which went down her neck and stayed on her chest quietly. But they are obviously so mature. The expression on his face was still the same as when he first met Nangxiang. One is passionate and lively, the other is demure and elegant. Chapter 323. Everything here 4,000 words. Shijun Shijun Shijun. Come here quickly. Sit down. Nangxiang Qinshu stood up without hesitation, raised his hand and took Nangxiang Shi's hand. The teeth are exposed, and a lively smile that makes people smile knowingly is also revealed at the corners of the mouth. She took Nangxiang Shi's hand and sat over them. Nango Takina also stood up quietly and gave up her position to Nango Shi. Then, her beautiful purple wisteria-like eyes glanced around, as if she was looking for something. But after searching around, I didn't find the person I was looking for. Her beautiful eyes dropped, and she couldn't help but ask. Shijun, where is Sister Hongxia? I remember she was the one who called you over just now, right? Hongxia isn't feeling well. I've sent her to bed to rest. Nangxiang Shi added some charcoal to the bottom of the barbecue and replied. Everyone in the Nangxiang family should know about Nangxiang Hongxia's pregnancy. There was no need for him to hide it. But he just finished speaking. Nangxiang Qianshu on the other side was already laughing. The key is that my wife doesn't just laugh. While she was smiling, she winked at Nangxiang Shi, with such a sinister look on her face that Nangxiang Shi couldn't help but reach out and pinch the side of his wife's face, asking expressionlessly, what are you laughing at? Hey hey. Nangxiang Qianshu was not ashamed when her cheek was pinched. A toothy and lively smile appeared on her pretty face. It's nothing, I just think that Shijun was really working hard before. Even Sister Hongxia didn't escape from you the poisonous hand. The main reason is that while she said this, she dared to use her white and slender fingers to touch Nangxiang Shi's chest. Sister Hongxia obviously said she didn't want it anymore at that time, but she still couldn't stop you, Shijun. Having said this, she stopped talking and gave Nangxiang Shi a knowing look with her bright red eyes. Nangxiang Shi. Have to say. After getting married, Nangxiang Qianshu, who was originally bold, could now be considered lawless. Even in front of Nangxiang Shi, this guy dared to tell such an explicit and dirty joke. Fortunately, although Nangxiang Shi could bear it, Nangxiang Takina on the other side couldn't bear it anymore. She glared at Nangxiang Qinshu. Shut up. Kinzu. Nango Takina has become mature, but when it comes to issues between men and women, she still shows the same shy expression as when she was a girl. Hey? What do you mean by shut up? I'm doing this for your own good, Qianshu. Nangxiang Qinshu, who had her hands on her hips and seemed unconcerned, spoke righteously. Obviously Qinsu, you also want to be like Sister Hengxia, but I am helping you train your shame ability. Otherwise, how can you let go in the future, Takina? That thing is that thing. This thing is this thing. The two are not the same thing at all. Nango Takina was very angry at Nango Kishu. I do like children, but I haven't reached that fanatical level yet, and I trust Toki-kun, so I'm not in a hurry at all. She said and glared at Nangxiang Qinshu again. After calming down a little, the black-haired woman handed the baked goods to Nangxiang. Shi-kun, please use it. Ah, good. Nangxiang Shi was satisfied. Although Nangxiang's thousands of lawless people seemed to be uncontrollable. Fortunately, there is Nango Takina. With Nango Takina being calm and cold, even Nango Kishu would probably be restrained in all aspects of his behavior. With this thought in mind, he took the skewers handed to him by Nango Takina without looking at them, and was about to take a bite. Then, well, Nangxiang stopped talking. Because he saw what was on the skewer in his hand. My love simulation with them. Author, Chiu Dao Yu de Zi Wei. Chapter 487. It is a bunch of green vegetables that are often seen in domestic barbecues and are widely loved by most men, leeks. Japanese supermarkets sell leeks, and leeks are also grown in Japan. It has nothing to do with sales and planting. When I was in Nangxiang, I rarely saw leeks in Japanese barbecue. This had to make Nangxiang Shi cheer up. He put down the skewers in his hands and glanced sideways at the things roasting on the fire next to the barbecue. Nangxiang Qinshu's place is very normal. Corn, potatoes, and marinated pork are skewered on a barbecue skewer. The main focus is a nutritionally balanced dish. She spread a lot here and there. Next to these skewers were several pieces of steak that were still being sealed. Presumably in addition to eating it herself, Nango Toki and Nango Takina were also considered. This can be considered a relatively common barbecue combination. As for Nango Takina, Nangxiangshi's eyes paused. Because he obviously saw something grilling on the other party's stove. It looked like a few carefully selected pieces of large oysters, a few strings of leeks with a layer of grease on the surface, and a few firm kidneys of an unknown animal. The most exaggerated thing is that there is a small round pot specially used for camping next to the barbecue. Inside, wolfberry tomato soup is simmering. A layer of chopped green onion is floating on it, and the aroma overflows. Nango Toki, who had everything in view, silently chewed the leeks in his mouth, and took another look at Nango Takina. Nango Takina's wisteria-like eyes blinked strangely. What's wrong? Toki-kun. Nangxiang Shi. No. Takina. Is this what you mean by saying that you are not crazy about children at all? This is the whole package. Is it possible that you don't want to sleep and rest tonight? Nangxiang was silent. He finally saw it. If Nangxiang Qinshu's emotions after marriage were expressed in a bluffing manner, she would be a bluff. Then Nango Takina is definitely the type who buries all her thoughts in her heart and only uses actions to realize them. Shi-kun, is that enough? There is still more here. When I saw Nangxiang, I ate all the leeks I had on hand. On the other side, Nango Takina felt a little more energetic. Her delicate face showed a gentle look, and she quickly put the baked goods on the plate gently and elegantly, and handed it to Nangxiang. Takina has had a hard time baking, so you should eat some too. Looking at the plate full of leeks, oysters, and roasted kidneys, Nangxiangshi's eyes twitched. You must know that in Japanese barbecue, it is very rare to see leeks, oysters, and roasted kidneys at the same time. With a slight cough, he gave half of the food on the plate to Nango Takina. Too. Regarding her husband's considerate behavior, Nango Takina nodded gently, raising her white chin. as if muttering to himself subconsciously, I have to eat a little to replenish my strength, and it's good for the evening. The following words were spoken too softly, and Nang Xiangxi did not hear them clearly. But boys only need to hear the first half of the sentence. In fact, you can basically guess the content of the second half of what Nango Takina said. Nan Xiangxi stretched out his palm and rubbed his eyebrows. After getting married, Ms. Takina is much more courageous than before marriage. He must have been hanging around with the crooked Miss Jianshu for too long. Thinking like this, Nang Xiangxi stretched out his finger and flicked it on Nang Xiangqinsu's forehead without hesitation. The white forehead could not withstand the unbridled torture of Nang Xiang's fingers, and it turned red due to the sudden attack. Hey? It hurts. Why did you hit me suddenly? Shi-kun. Ask yourself. Nang Xiangxi took a sip of the wolfberry soup Nang Xiang Takina handed him and glanced sideways at Nang Xiangqinshu. After being beaten inexplicably, Nang Xiangqianshu originally wanted to say something else. But she soon saw what was on the Nang Xiang clock plate, and after a look of understanding, she laughed. This guy. Nang Xiangxi shook his head speechlessly, picked up a piece of oyster and ate it. Feeling the texture of the oyster meat in his mouth, he raised his eyebrows and was a little surprised. The quality of these oysters is quite good. Although he had eaten a lot of shellfish and oysters along the coast of Japan, this was the first time he had tasted meat as smooth and tender as this. This is really embarrassing for Nango Takina, to be able to find such good quality oysters. Well, these are the oyster seeds I specially asked Liang Sang's father to bring from France. Didn't I order a batch of large water tanks before? Just to raise these, I also made some space in the backyard to put high-quality oysters. Greenbelt leeks are planted in. She said with a shy smile, don't Chai-jun like to eat Chinese food? I went to ask a Chinese chef for advice. In the future, I can also make enoki mushrooms or the popular bone soup in China. Nang Xiangxi. No? Miss Takina. Are you still producing and selling your own products? 2 large water tanks? Have you set aside some space in your backyard to grow leeks? Nango she couldn't help but look at Nango Takina. In this short period of time, he completed the triple jump with his impression of Nango Takina in front of him. The shy smile of the other party also changed completely under Nan Xiangxi's gaze. It was as if there was a succubus tail extending out from behind her. Mainly eating these things every day to supplement? Can your waist bear it? Nang Xiang was speechless for a while. But due to his wife's look of expectation, he could only shake his head and finish the things on the plate at hand, while listening to the soft discussion between Nango Kishu and Nango Takina. What can 2 women who are already married women discuss? They are nothing more than the children born to Nango Ryo, Nango Akane, and Nango Ichiri. Or maybe when walking on the road, some children would call them sister, and other trivial things in life. Horror movie to watch at night. When I couldn't sleep, I got into Nang Xiang's bed and slept with him. Or other female-related topics. It's actually quite interesting to listen to them discuss these topics. After all, although Nang Xiang had conducted personal simulations, he didn't have much time to communicate with girls who were already married to him. It is also rare to hear them discussing post-marriage topics. Oh, in the final analysis, it's because of my marriage to Toki-kun. Nang Xiangqinshu hugged Nang Xiangxi from behind and rested his smooth chin on Nang Xiangxi's head. Shai-jun, thanks to you, I am very happy now. She said so. Very happy. Suddenly hearing Nang Xiangqinshu say these words, Nang Xiang raised his eyes. Of course I'm happy. Nang Xiangqinshu hugged Nang Xiangxi tightly without any shame. If there is no Toki-kun, then I really can't imagine what I will do in the next days. Even Takina shouldn't be able to deny this, right? As she said this, she turned to look at Nango Takina. Nango Takina, who has always been opposed to Nango Kishu, did not oppose him for the first time. Those purple wisteria eyes looked at Nang Xiang with an extraordinarily gentle look. "We are very happy, Shi-kun." "That's right." Nan Xiangxi nodded slightly. The girls lived happily with him. Just hearing this sentence, Nang Xiangxi already understood that there was nothing wrong with what he had been pursuing. He can indeed give girls happiness. This is true even after marriage. Do not know why. He felt at ease. This is a very good state, which can't help but cheer up his spirit. Nothing more. There is actually a slight flaw here. That means eating too much. Leeks, oysters, sea cucumbers, and other stuff are all you can eat. I didn't eat a few skewers of meat from the barbecue, so I ate all these things. Especially the dark-haired wife with a gentle smile who never let him rest at all. Just see that there is less on his plate. New ones will be added in the next second. I almost vomited after eating the Nangxiang Shijuan oysters. By the time I got there I couldn't eat anymore. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My love simulation with them. Author, Chiudeo Udaziiwei. Chapter 488. It was only when Nango Kishu and Nango Takina finished eating everything on their plates. This ended with a barbecue lunch full of leeks and oysters. Nang Xiangxi, who was already a little stuffed, leaned back on the soft chair prepared for her by Nang Xiang Takina. Nang Xiangxi sat like this and watched the two wives clearing the table. Obviously they looked a little tired, but they still took care of their own feelings at the first moment and allowed themselves to sit down and rest. Nang Xiangxi slowly exhaled. Clean and clear eyes slowly moved away from Nango Kishu and Nango Takina. To be honest, as a male, there is no doubt that he is in the happiest and most complete state now. There are beautiful wives who are willing to satisfy him in all kinds of positions. And a sensible daughter. Don't worry about a house or a car. There are no relatives suffering from any incurable diseases. The family situation was also handled perfectly. Life can be considered smooth sailing. Such a situation. It is a life state that almost all men dream of. But I haven't figured out the situation I'm in yet. Nang Xiangxi muttered to himself. Yes. He still hasn't figured out the situation he's in yet. Is everything here real? Is everything here false? Can he survive here forever? The most important is whether he can return to the previous, real world. All these need to be figured out by Nang Xiangxi. Finale. The road of love will never stop. 13,000 words. Is this world real or false? Why does this world exist? To understand these situations. In fact, there is a most direct and simple way. That is simulator. While Nango Kishu and Nango Takina were still clearing the table, Nan Xiangxi lowered his voice and called out, extending his fingers forward. The emulator's page expands. Current host, Nang Xiangxi. Length of stay, unlimited. Remaining heartbeat value, 4,500. It is still a simulation page that has not changed at all. Nang Xiangxi raised his eyebrows and then stretched out his fingers. Although the emulator page has changed. But Nan Xiangxi didn't believe that the simulator would send him here without any warning and without any means of returning to the original world. It seemed that he was aware of what Nan Xiang was thinking. The originally seemingly peaceful simulation page was in turmoil. At the same time, Nang Xiang, whose perception was very keen, subconsciously raised his eyes. As far as the eye can see, the shadow of the original Nang Xiang family mansion has disappeared. The sun is replaced by night. Everything around him seemed to have been wiped away with an eraser. Darkness enveloped everything. When Nang Xiang wanted to look forward, The darkness that is so thick that it is difficult to see the way forward has shrouded the front. He stepped back subconsciously. However, he discovered that the back road had been cut off by thick darkness even before he knew it. Dark and dense, crowded together. Unable to move forward. Naturally, there is no way to retreat. I can only be trapped in this dark place. But it was also in this darkness that was so thick that it seemed like I couldn't even see my fingers. A timid voice rang in his ears. Ashi. Huh. 1 mile. Nangxiang turned around in surprise. Within the horizon. A pink-haired girl wearing a pink sportswear and sweatpants with a timid look on her face was looking at her. Nangxiang, she was surprised. Palms raised. However, the fingers stretched forward, paused and finally dropped. No, you can't be Ili. Nangxiang, she looked at the Gotu Ichiri in front of him and shook his head. If he guessed correctly, the space he was in now should be the consciousness space inside the simulator. Gotu Kazuri simply cannot come to such a place. But Nangxiang took a few steps back. But the pink-haired girl in front of him was indeed Gotu Kazuri. This sentence seems to be somewhat contradictory now. But not so contradictory. Because the pink-haired girl in front of her has pink hair, side hair, and yellow-blue pink hair accessories. No matter the tone. Still a quiet, delicate, and timid face hidden under the 2 long bangs. Even the tone of voice. Breathing rate. All of them are highly consistent with Kazuri Gotu. It is not an exaggeration to say that they are Kazuri Gotu himself. Nangxiang, she groaned, then raised his head as if he thought of something. Are you, a love simulator? The moment the words fell, Nangxiang, she was actually still a little unsure. But something that allows Ichiri Gotu to appear in this place and communicate with him. Except for the simulator. It was almost impossible to come up with the second answer in Nangxiang. The next moment, the other party also showed a shy smile like Gotu Kazuri's face, nodded and admitted. You guessed it right, Ashi, it is indeed you. Are you really Miss Simulator? Seeing the simulator lady in front of her nodding, Nangxiang couldn't help but look at her one more time. Although he always has nothing to do and calls the simulator Miss Simulator. But he was actually a little unsure as to whether the gender of the simulator was male or female. The reason why I call her MS Simulator is because I feel that the simulator I get along with day and night is a greasy man. It feels weird to say anything. Wait a minute. Thinking of this, Nangxiang suddenly realized something. He's simulating bad times. There will always be nothing to do, just tap the simulator page hard. Often, because he exerts excessive force, the entire page of the simulator will vibrate visible to the naked eye. Now it seems. If the gender of the simulator lady is female, then every time I slap the simulation page, isn't it true that I'm slapping her? No, no, no. Nangxiang, she shook his head and hastily put aside the strange feeling that emerged in his heart. After all, it feels a bit wrong to discuss common sense in this area with something like an emulator. The other side. This was probably what Nangxiang was thinking when he understood it. The pink-haired simulator lady shook her head and explained. In fact, I have no physical existence. In other words, I do not have a gender. This image now is just an image simulated through the heart of love. In fact, apart from this image, besides, I can still do this. Her voice was timid and weak, and then she paused slightly. Raise your palms. My love simulation with them. Author, Chiudeo Udazi. Chapter 489. The originally solid figure began to become illusory and unpredictable because of this action. Incandescent light flashed. At the same time, a figure slowly walked out of the bright light. It shouldn't be a problem to talk to you using this image, right? An elegant and lazy voice came from the mouth of the girl with short dark blue hair in front of her. The original Gotu disappeared from the spot, replaced by Yamada Ryo, who brushed his short hair around his ears with his hands. Obviously, the Yamada Ryo in front of him is also an image simulated by a simulator. Can you simulate the appearance of a simulated subject I once simulated? Watch the other person demonstrate their abilities. Nang Xiangxi couldn't help but frown and ask questions. It's actually more than just looks, she. The simulator lady with the face of Ryo Yamada had a cold and magnetic voice. Voice, personality, habits, body shape, including things they like and dislike, as long as they have characteristics, I can perfectly simulate them. She was saying this just a second ago. The next second, it was replaced by a face similar to Ichiki Hunka and a warm and cheerful voice. Even their favorite postures, their little habits when talking, and their unconscious movements, I can perfectly reproduce them, she-kun. She said this with a smile on her face. That warm, cheerful, and understanding smile that Nan Xiang was so familiar with. Even if Ajishi Zange, the sister who has the closest relationship with Ajishi Hongxia, comes over, she probably won't be able to tell the truth from the false. Nang Xiang watched all this. Looking at Ajishi Hongxia with her hands behind her back and standing on tiptoes, she looked sunny and lively. He was silent for a long time. Then he spoke directly. Is this the effect of collecting Heart of Love? Oh my, you are indeed Toki-kun. The golden side ponytail is turned. However, it is just such a rotating process. The side ponytail turned into long light gray hair. The originally passionate bright red eyes also became intellectual and mysterious. The simulator lady who used the appearance of Fudabario pushed up her glasses on her ears and answered in a very rational and steady voice. Every simulation you perform, Shijun, is actually equivalent to using I to collect parts of them. She said, holding up a finger. The tone changed again. Her appearance also changed into Akane Shinjo with short pink and purple hair. She giggled. As long as Shijun achieves a happy ending once, I can save all the simulation data of the simulated object that achieved the happy ending, and the collection of love hearts is actually equivalent to giving me the personality of each of them. And all their love for Toki-kun. The voice paused slightly. The next moment he spoke directly. Just like computer hardware, simulated data factors such as memory, movement, voice, appearance, etc. are equivalent to the hardware that makes up a person, and the heart of love is equivalent to adding a complete set of operations to these computer hardware system. End of explanation. Nang Xiangxi actually fully understood the words of the simulator in front of him. Just like a computer. Good hardware and a system that can make the computer run perfectly are both indispensable. Simulation data is equivalent to the computer's CPU, memory, power supply, graphics card, and other hardware. The heart of love is equivalent to the operating system of a computer. The two are indispensable and complement each other. It's no wonder that the other party is able to simulate the appearance and personality of simulated objects such as Godu Kazuri and Yamada Ryo, which are difficult to distinguish between real and fake. Because in a sense, the simulator that obtains their real simulation data and love heart is actually equivalent to another Godu Kazuri and Yamada Ryo. Thinking of this, Nang Xiang took a deep breath. Then he turned his head. The voice was steady and he asked the question without being sad or unhappy. Is the world I just experienced real? Yes. No matter what happens with the emulator. What he needs to figure out now is whether the world he was in just now is real or not. As long as you want it, Toki-kun, it can be real. Matsuzaka Sato's soft voice sounded. And with this sentence fell. The darkness beneath Nang Xiangxi's feet was like the surface of a lake beginning to ripple. And in this lake, scenes began to appear. Nang Xiang Ili took care of Nang Xiang Nazu, who had just come out of kindergarten. It seemed that he was about to call Nang Xiangxi and ask him to come and pick up his daughter. On the other side, Nango Kishu and Nango Takina were busy clearing the table, and from time to time they looked at Nango Toshi, who had fallen asleep on the bench, with gentle eyes. Nangxiang Hungzia, who had already breathed a sigh of relief, was half leaning on the back of the bed, flipping through Nangxiang's family photo album. When I saw the warm and pleasant photos, a light smile appeared on that easygoing and delicate face. Nango Ryo is taking care of Nango Yuyuna to sleep, even though Nango Yuyuna doesn't want to sleep that much. The screen jumped slightly. From Nangxiang Mansion to other places. At this time, Nango Ryo, who was in the research room, was lying on the soft chair in the office. She seemed very tired. But when she thought about the family gathering in the evening, she regained her energy and looked hard at the icon data in front of her. Nango Akane is busy with the latest special photo shoot planning, asking people to help arrange the scenes and contact the actors. Nango Sato looked at the long line of people lining up for the autograph session, and helplessly asked Nango Ikuyo for help. Accept them. There are other people living in this world. Riko's Walnut, Mika's store manager, and Nakahara Mizuki are busy building business. Yamada's parents and Goto's parents are exchanging their experiences in taking care of their granddaughter. Futaba's parents are still busy abroad, but they, who are always busy, seem to be preparing to go home for the new year this year. Matsusaka Sayuri moved into the Nango family's mansion under the care of Nango Sato. There are many people, many shadows of other people. Among them, Nanxiangshi saw the shadow of his family. I saw the happy smiles on the faces of the two sisters, Nango Shiho and Nango Yoho. I saw the scene where Shinjo's parents apologized to Akane Nango. He saw it. I saw many happiest things that never happened in real life, almost perfect things. This is a perfect world, Toki-kun. Matsuzaka Sato's voice changed again, this time becoming Kitano Ikuyo's voice. Everything you haven't completed in another world, or that you still have regrets about, has been filled and completed in this world. Yes. Even Nangxiangshi couldn't deny the simulator's words. What was before him was indeed a perfect world. It was so perfect that Xinj's mother, who was supposed to have died in a car accident more than 10 years ago, was given a chance to be reborn in this world. There was no car accident in this world, and the other party went to the exhibition hall smoothly. And accompanied Ichiki Hungzia to listen to the performance of Ichiki Zinga, which brought the two people who had gradually become estranged back together again. Under the care of their mother, Yuji Zinj and Yuji Hungzia have grown up healthily to this day. No regrets. There are no flaws either. In this world, everyone has what they yearn for most in real life. But this world is not real after all. Nangxiangshi shook his head. From the words of Miss Simulator, Nangxiangshi had actually felt it. In fact, this world still essentially belongs to the simulated world she created. It's just that compared to the previous simulated world, this world is more real, even comparable to the real world. So what if it's not real? Miss Simulator didn't mean to hide it at all, but admitted it bluntly. She blinked her pink eyes with Matsuzaka Susu's face. As long as Nango Senpai is willing to stay in this world, then it is real, and no one can change this fact. Then I would like to ask back, why do you want me to stay in this world? Nanxiang turned his head sideways. He could feel the focus of the simulator in front of him. The other party's attitude is very clear, and it seems that he wants to stay in this world. Creating a perfect real world where the host feels happy and free from any worries is the ultimate goal of the love simulator. MS Simulator simply responded, actually, that's why love simulators exist. The existence of the love simulator has been to create a complete, perfect world that makes the host happy from the beginning. This is why for every simulated object, the simulator makes the host strive for a higher evaluation score. But I will not interfere with the host's choice. The simulator lady's face turned into Ryo Yamada's again. She spoke calmly, just like every simulation and every ending requires the host to choose it himself, I will not interfere with your choice. Yes. Even if she has the personality, appearance, and behavior of many girls. My love simulation with them. Author, Chiudeo Udazi. Chapter 490. An emulator is still an emulator. She has no character or selfishness. Her current personality is only revealed through the simulation data of Loveheart and Yamada Ryo. Therefore, she will not interfere with Nang Xiangshi's choice of the host. This is your freedom, she. She spoke like this. This is the freedom of Nang Xiang. There were two choices before him. One is to stay in the present world and enjoy a happy and perfect life. There is no need to run around for money and livelihood, no need to worry about coordinating the relationship between the girls, no need to spend time convincing their parents and family, let alone overcome the hardships in life. Everything went smoothly. The second is to choose the outside world. Choose a future full of variables and make choices again and again, just like you have simulated time and time again before. Whether to achieve a perfect happy ending like in the simulation among so many variables. Even after experiencing so many simulations of Nang Xiang, I am still not sure. Everything is a little ethereal and unpredictable. He fell silent on this side. The simulator lady on the other side spoke calmly. Actually, I think all your worries are unnecessary, she. She blinked her ember eyes, which were exactly the same as Yamada Ryo's, and continued. A smart person like she should be able to easily analyze the pros and cons, but why would you hesitate at this time? She shook her head. It is unreasonable to give up the stable happiness and smooth sailing life that is easily available in this world, and instead pursue the illusory happiness in the real world, which may not be as unstable as this world. It's really unreasonable. Nan Xiangxi did not deny the meaning of her words, and nodded openly to admit it. Then, the simulator's face changed, and he was about to continue talking. But the next second, her words were interrupted by Nang Xiangxi. But that premise is that I haven't had any contact or feelings with Ili, Liang, Hengxia, and Qinju, them. Nang Xiangxi smiled and shook his head. He is also a human being, he also has selfish motives, and he also has emotions and desires. He has the ability to resist temptation, but not to the point where he can resist any temptation. Just like what Nang Xiang said when he first got the simulator. His goal is to study hard, get into a good university, go into business after university, live a smooth life, and find a wife who can satisfy him in every possible way. And these goals. In this world, he has realized everything, and it is even more perfect than he imagined. If I hadn't done so many simulations, I would have chosen this world, right? Nang Xiang squatted down, lovingly stroking the scenes of happiness reflected on the ground. Yes. If you haven't experienced so many different things in real life, presumably he would choose this world. But it is precisely because of experiencing those things that I understand that they are actually the most precious things to me. Nang Xiang's tone became calmer. They also live in this world. Miss Simulator looked up. They in this world are still fake after all. Nan Xiangxi shook his head and persisted in his idea. If it is real to a certain extent and false, it is actually not a false item. The simulator lady lowered her head, looked at the Nang Xiang Ili and other girls in this world, and said in a steady voice. They have the same personality, the same behavior as they do in the real world. It is absolutely not an exaggeration to say that they are real. I don't deny that. Nan Xiangxi nodded and acknowledged Miss Simulator's opinion. After previous contact with Nango Ryo, Nango Hunka, Nango Kishu, and Nango Takina in this world, it has actually been confirmed in Nang Xiang. They in this world are exactly the same as they are in the real world. Whether it's their behavior, their personality, or the fact that they also love themselves. All of this is true. However, even if they are real, they are still not the girls from my world, that I know. Nang Xiangxi spoke. Nothing more was said. But the unquestionable tone in his words made the simulator lady in front of him unable to help but remain silent. What are you going to do? When she asked Nang Xiang. Although they are not the people I know, but their feelings for me are real. Nang Xiangxi sighed softly. I want to say goodbye to them properly. Yes. The girls in this world who were born with the effect of 9 love hearts are absolutely sincere in their feelings for him. So even if they are not the real Kazuri Goto and the others. Nang Xiang didn't want to leave without saying goodbye. The breeze dispersed the floating clouds. Golden sunlight slowly fell on the ground. After clearing away the outdoor barbecue table where Nango Kishu and Nango Takina stopped holding their hands. She looked at her husband, who was leaning on the soft chair, eyes slightly narrowed, and seemed to be falling into a deep sleep. Wearing a spring gown and sleeping in the courtyard, he had a pretty face. The sharp facial lines, deep facial features, and slender eyebrows have an indescribable elegance. Look at this husband. Nango Kishu and Nango Takina, who were originally calm, suddenly felt a sense of restlessness in their hearts. They looked at each other. It's like some kind of consensus has been reached. The body also moved forward to explore. At the same time, 2 pairs of white palms, one on the left and one on the right, slowly stretched forward. She seemed to want to do something to her sleeping husband. But the next second, snap! The originally white palm was grasped by the husband, who suddenly opened his eyes in front of him. At the same time, the 2 people who wanted to cause trouble saw the teasing smile on the corner of the husband's mouth. It's over. I have lived with Nang Xiang for so many years. Nango Kishu and Nango Takina naturally understood what their husbands suddenly showed such expressions. What the 2 of them will face next will definitely be the endless teasing and teasing from each other. After all, you want to do something bad and get caught. It is natural to be treated like this. The 2 men closed their eyes. It was as if he was waiting for death with his eyes closed, waiting for Nang Xiangxi's next move. However, the 2 of them closed their eyes for a long time. But he still didn't wait for the usual teasing and mischief in Nang Xiang. This made Nango Kishu and Nango Takina subconsciously open their eyes. Under their somewhat surprised gazes, Nang Xiang was originally leaning on a soft chair with his eyes closed to rest. I don't know when I stood up. And he took steps and walked outside. His steps were slow. But his steps were very firm. Without any hesitation. Look at his back like this. Nang Xiang Qianshu couldn't help but shout. Toki-kun. Nan Xiangxi paused in his steps and looked sideways. Where are you going? Well, I have something to do. Let's go out for a while. Nang Xiangxi replied. Then shall I save dinner for you tonight? Nango Takina also raised her voice. No. Nang Xiangxi replied like this. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My love simulation with them. Author, Chiudeo Udaziiwei. Chapter 491. Turn around and walk out again. His steps were still slow, but still determined. Don't know why. Looking at Nang Xiang's figure walking forward. Both of them had an indescribable feeling. It's as if the other person will never come back once he leaves. Due to some strange mistake, Nang Xiangqinsu couldn't help but speak. Will you come back? Nang Xiangxi, who was always willing to answer any of her questions, didn't answer this time. He just stood in the distance and waved. That action seemed like a farewell, and also seemed to be signaling to them not to catch up. Nango Kishu and Nango Takina stopped trying to catch up with Nango. Although I don't understand what my husband wants to do and where he is going next. The 2 of them still stopped. Because no matter when Both of them always respect Nan Xiangshi's choice. Outside kindergarten. Nango Ichiri, who had taken Nango no Take back to his side, was checking the time on his lady's watch. She was a little tired after just attending the parent-teacher meeting. But as long as I think about meeting that person in a while. The soft and pretty face that was originally full of fatigue was filled with some energy again. She was holding on to time. And from time to time he looked up at both sides of the road. Then. 1 mile. A voice suddenly came from my ears. This suddenly shocked Nang Xiang. She turned around in surprise. Only then did she realize that her husband had appeared quietly behind her. Huh? Ashi? How did you get here? Nang Xiang Ili was a little surprised. Because she had been paying attention to both sides of the road and did not see the shadow of Nan Xiang. It was as if Nang Xiangshi suddenly appeared in front of him. You just didn't see it? I've been here for a long time. Nang Xiangshi smiled in front of him, then stretched out his hand and put the small Nang Xiang Nazu on his neck. Being suddenly attacked by his own father. Nango no Take suddenly let out an exclamation, and then giggled in a novel way because of the deflection of his perspective. Ashi. Nan Xiang glanced at Nan Xiang angrily, I love no Take too much. Why don't we just let her walk the short distance home? It's okay, it's okay. Let's go. Nang Xiangshi maintained Nang Xiang Nazu's balance, smiled nonchalantly, and spoke to Nang Xiang Ili. Seeing her husband speak like this, Nang Xiang, who was naturally well behaved and obedient, lost his voice for a moment. He just gave a shallow hum and followed Nang Xiangshi. The afterglow of the setting sun slowly fell down. The shadow of Nang Xiang is rendered very deep. It also makes the boundaries between fiction and reality begin to blur. Listening to the sounds of husband and daughter playing in my ears. For some reason, Nang Xiang Ili suddenly had the illusion that all this was far away from him. This made her couldn't help but grab Nang Xiangshi's sleeve. 1 mile. Nang Xiangshi heard a somewhat surprised voice from the front. Ah, sorry. I'm fine, Ash. Nang Xiang Ili lowered his head and apologized hurriedly for his sudden action. But when she gently pinched Nang Xiang's cuffs, she didn't mean to relax at all. Seeing this, Nan Xiangshi in front just smiled and shook his head. Without saying anything, he still walked forward. Nang Xiang's home is neither close nor far from the kindergarten. In terms of distance, it takes more than 10 minutes to walk and you are almost there. However, it is exactly these 10 minutes. From the perspective of today's Nang Xiang Ili, there is a feeling that things are passing quickly. It was as if Nang Xiang had just come to take their mother and daughter home a second ago. The next second the three of them were standing at the door. Nang Xiangshi was holding Nang Xiang Nazu, but he couldn't make a move for the time being. Nang Xiang could only take one step forward, take out the key and open the door. Ashi, the door is open, hey. Before Nan Xiang Ili could finish speaking inside the door, Nang Xiangshi outside the door had already handed over Nang Xiang Nazu who had been coaxed to sleep. Ashi. Looking at the child in her arms. When he glanced at Nang Xiang who was standing outside the door and seemed to have no intention of entering the house, Nang Xiang made some strange noises. Sorry, Ili, I still have some things to deal with alone. There are still some things to deal with. Nang Xiang Ili looked at her husband with a gentle smile in front of him. The strange feeling in my heart was getting stronger and stronger at this time. She wanted to just say I'll go with you. But when the words came to his lips, he couldn't say them at all. Because Nang Xiang said, solve it alone. So all she can do now is. Then, have a nice trip, Toki-kun. With a gentle smile as usual, Nang Xiang Ili hugged Nang Xiangshi vigorously by the door. Subsequently, standing by the door, she watched his figure gradually disappear under the sunset. Didn't try to save him. He didn't say much else. She just trusted Nang Xiangshi as always. Trust the choices he makes. Same moment. Nango Akane, who was arranging specific matters for the actors in the special photo studio, frowned. Do not know why. She is always a little uneasy today. This resulted in her not feeling as comfortable as usual in arranging her work. She was a little anxious. He stopped setting up the shooting location and walked to the rooftop to rest. I want to blow a cool breeze to soothe my troubled heart. She took out her key and opened the door to the rooftop. Taking advantage of the beautiful sunset, I just took a few steps. Then he saw the figure also standing on the rooftop. Toki-kun made a somewhat surprised sound. Nango Akane took 2 steps forward. Why are you here? She had indeed given the key to Nango Shinjo Takyozatsu studio to Nango Toshi. But there should be no reservations to come in Nangxiang today. Even if you have to come. The staff should have informed her that she would meet Nangxiang in person again. She was a little confused as to why her husband appeared on the rooftop. But I just watched him waving. The strange emotions in my heart were suppressed at this moment. Toki-kun. She trotted to Nanxiang's side. Her cheeks were slightly red in front of him. She was not the director Akane Nango who always spoke on the set, but a qualified and competent wife. I just happened to be passing by here, and suddenly I wanted to see you, so I came over. Nangxiang laughed. Maybe it's because the sunset is a bit dazzling. Nango Akane couldn't detect the expression on his face. She just nodded and said as if teasingly, that's right, Toki-kun is really a child. Or because I missed her, I suddenly ran over. This is indeed a childish excuse. But my love simulation with them. Author, Chiudeo Yuda Ziiwei. Chapter 492. That's pretty good too. Akane Nango was also upset because things on the set couldn't go smoothly. With Nangxiang's presence, she just had a channel for discussion and communication. She began to talk to Nangxiang about the recent events on the set, and how she felt upset today. All kinds of worries pressed down on her, making her feel unspeakably anxious. If it's Akane, she can definitely do these things. Looking at his anxious wife, Nangxiang just smiled and comforted her, then stretched out his palm and gently stroked her head. What, Shi-kun, I'm not a child anymore. If you fool a child like this, it's really. Her husband's sudden caressing made Nango Akane blush and make a complaining sound. But after all, this is just words. When Nangxiang placed his palm on her head, a clearly visible smile appeared on the corner of her mouth that seemed to be pouting out of dissatisfaction. After staying there for a long time on the rooftop, Akane Nango blinked at him when she left Nangxiang's arms. Shijun, I have to go down first. The studio below is still waiting for me to arrange work. Ah, good. Nangxiang smiled and nodded. Maybe it's because of psychological effects. Nango Akane always felt that her husband's smile seemed a bit distant under the sunset. This made her shake her head. Then he looked at Nangxiang in front of him seriously. I'll come up when I've arranged the scene. You wait for me up there for a while, okay? That's probably a bit difficult. I have other things to deal with next. Nangxiang smiled and shook his head, then stroked her head, but I will always cheer for you, Qian. Yeah. Listening to Nangxiang's words. Look at his smile. At this moment, Nango Akane suddenly felt the urge not to go down and arrange the work. She wanted to always be with the man in front of her, her husband. But this is impossible. Nango Shinjo is more than just her dream. It also carried Nangxiang's long-standing expectations for her. She couldn't give up so easily. And the other connotations in Nangxiang's words made her unable to retain him. It was as if Nangxiang had been supporting her behind her back. She also wants to support Nangxiang from behind. I understand, Toki-kun. Nango Akane didn't say anything more. She just held his hand firmly for a while, then turned around and walked towards the door of the rooftop. She told herself, "Can't look back." But when the rooftop door is about to close, she couldn't help but look through the last crack in the door. At that time, the husband on the rooftop was raising his head. He seemed to be looking up at something. Nango Ikuyo, Nango Satu, and Nango Rio felt very tired. They met after a book signing event for book fans. At that time, Nango Ikuyo helped Nango Sugar complete the signing of the last book fan. The two of them dragged their exhausted bodies out of the mall and groped outside. However, what the two of them didn't expect was Rio Nango, who had just completed submitting his experimental data at a nearby research institute, also happened to walk here and was about to call a taxi home. The three already mentally exhausted people hit it off immediately. I decided to go to the cafe ahead to rest for the time being, order a cup of coffee, and cheer up before going home. After making up their minds, the three of them walked towards the cafe. It's just that I'm groping in the direction of the coffee shop. The more they felt that the road was twisting and long. At the same time, the heavy fog that came from nowhere gradually filled the entire road leading to the cafe in front. What's happening here? Nango Ikuyo looked around in surprise. I didn't know when the white mist had filled the entire street. The buildings on both sides of the surrounding roads had all disappeared at this time. The originally dense street lights have also disappeared. Only the cafe in front was left with flickering lights. This was such a weird scene that caught Nango Ikuyo, Nango Satu, and Nango Rio a little off guard. They looked at each other, completely unsure of which direction to go next. It is also this time. A steady voice suddenly came from the cafe in front. Rio, Ikuyo, and Satu, come here quickly. The three of them looked up subconsciously. Then he saw Nang Xiangxi standing at the door of the coffee shop. Toki-kun. Although I was a little surprised as to why Nang Xiangxi appeared in such a place. But the three of them finally looked at each other and walked quickly in the direction of Nang Xiang. And getting closer to him, the three of them felt an indescribable warmth. Wait until they stand completely in front of Nang Xiangxi. The chill that had been wrapped in mist had completely disappeared. The whole body became warm from this. And in front of them, Nang Xiangxi just glanced at them and couldn't help laughing. How did the three of you end up like this? The current state of Nango Satu, Nango Ikuyo, and Nango Rio is definitely not good. There was unconcealable tiredness on everyone's face. Nango Ikuyo was fine. After all, Nango Ikuyo was just standing there helping Nango Satu maintain the order of the autograph session. The one who really felt uncomfortable was Nang Xiang Satu. She signed hundreds of autographs at the book signing event. I still can't lift my wrist. As for Nango Rio, she is the most exaggerated. Not only was she tired, she also had very clear dark circles on her face. It must have been several days of research that drained her energy. Nang Xiangxi looked at their feeble appearance and felt angry and pitiful. He shook his head helplessly. After you finish your coffee, you three should go back quickly. Finish this sentence. Then, Nang Xiangxi stretched out his palm. Push them forward hard one step. Regarding Nang Xiang's sudden action, the three of them were a little surprised. They couldn't help but look back. But they found that Nang Xiang was just standing in the thick fog and waved gently to them. Then, sorry, three customers, your coffee is ready. The waiter's voice rang loudly in his ears. At the same time, the three people who were asleep also opened their eyes at this moment. They looked at each other in surprise at first. Then Nango Ikuyo murmured somewhat incredulously. We just fell asleep. Well, it looks like this, it seems like I was dreaming about Shi-kun. Nang Xiang Sugar nodded gently. But, we shouldn't have ordered yet, right? Nango Rio, who was thinking with furrowed eyebrows, couldn't help but speak. She didn't understand what the dream was about. I just vaguely remember that the three of them entered the coffee shop and closed their eyes to rest for a while because they were too tired. And then, the waiter brought the coffee that I and others had not ordered. Ah, it's like this. When the three of them were resting with their eyes closed just now, a young male customer with black hair came over and took the order for the three of them, then he paid and left. The waiter next to me reminded him with a smile, then added please use it slowly, then turned and left. Is it, Toki-kun? Looking at the 3 cups of coffee placed on the table, Nango Ikuyo couldn't help but make a sound. It should be that person.